Welcome to Season 2 of the Generational Dental Wealth Show. Season 2 is all about increasing dental financial IQ. We do record these live in studio at Team Studios, so if you want to see the video format of this show, go ahead to Spotify or YouTube. Also, if you want to join the Generational Dental Wealth community, go ahead to teamfinancial.com/educate. Let's hop into it.
Welcome to Season 2 of the Generational Dental Wealth Podcast.
Yeah.
My name is Dr. Jermaine Affetti.
My name is Kingsley Affetti, CPA.
We're so excited to have you back
excited.
here today, man. It's Season 2.
It's Season 2, man. We made it.
We made it. We made it, man. Season 1 was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We've been recording Season 2 for a few months now, making sure we have the best product for everyone out there. So we're excited how Season 2 is coming into shape, and we're excited to release this to the world.
Yeah, definitely, man. We wanted to bring a few extra hands on deck and make sure that we give you all the best version of the Generation of Dental Wealth show, man. So I think you all will really enjoy this season.
Man, one thing we really learned from Season 1 and really just like analyzing the data on like who's listening is we're starting to really figure out who is our core audience. Who are the ones that we're really serving, right? And one thing that I've noticed is that the demographic that in which we serve the most are dentists who are business minded.
Exactly.
Or dentists who are interested in becoming more business minded.
Yeah, and it's really speaking to the mentality. It's not just like we talked about a business in the sense of traditional, even practice ownership. A lot of times, it's just, are you financially aware on money matters, on financial matters, and are you willing to take that extra step and really try to be have a hands-on approach of what's going on your financial life, man?
So in that vein, just like all of us went to dental school and we learned prosthodontics, we learned periodontics, we learned oral surgery, we learned restorative, we learned all the different areas within dentistry. Now we all self-identified to figure out where do we want our career within dentistry to go. It's the same way I chose to be a general dentist. It's the same way this season we're going to go into different financial topics so you can figure out where does this lie as far as where you want to go with your financial life. So we're very, very excited. We're going to be touching on few different topics, and we're going to be touching on practice ownership. We're going to be talking about associateships. We're going to be talking about contracting. We're going to talk about what do you do with your financial resources once you start to accumulate some financial resources. What kind of buckets do you put them in? How do you invest? But ultimately, everything we're going to be doing this season is focused on one main goal. How do you build your generational dental wealth?
Yeah, how do you do it? And, you cannot do it without being financially astute. That's taxes. That is knowing, that a practice is an asset. That's knowing cash flow. It's just understanding the dynamics in which, get you to that final destination. You cannot be one-dimensional anymore. We're no longer in school where you get the grade for the work you put in, but now it's so many different factors, so many different variables that ultimately lead to that final success that you have to be aware of, man. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about this journey to generational dental wealth, man. So I'm excited. For sure.
Again, just being a general dentist, you have a very good understanding that you have to be well versed in a lot of different areas.
Exactly.
Right? Like in life, especially when it comes to your finances, you cannot be a specialist. Right? You have to have a little bit of pedo in you. You have to have a little bit of periodontics and you have to have a little prosthodontics in you. Right? Myself personally, I don't see younger kids. Right? But in that same vein, the areas that I know I don't personally do, I get help in. Right? We have some great referrals in Charlotte and specifically that we're able to now get kids into safer hands. It's the same way in your finances. You should be well versed in every single area, but areas that you don't necessarily feel comfortable in, that's when it's time to get help.
Yeah, man, I completely agree. Talking to many different dentists and talking about their finances, different thing like that. Even me as a CPA, I'm always pushing the vein. Hey, if we're talking about investing, if we're talking about stock market, that probably is going to be pointed more towards your financial advisor, right? So even within the CPA world, even when working with dentists, we have to realize that, we have to know where our line is drawn so that we can get, that professional into the best hands possible. So yeah, I'm with you.
That's good, man. So in the best way that we know how to, we kicking off Season 2, hopping into the big topic of income.
Let's do it.
People have so many questions on how much does the average dentist make? How much does the average practice owner make? Does these numbers actually make sense? What does it actually look like? I know myself personally, when I was in dental school, I used to be in class Googling how much does the average dentist make? And I used to always try to get more information on what makes sense, but I could never really get clear answers. Even going into my first contract negotiation, when I was first came out of school and I was negotiating contracts between 2 different offices to travel between them, honestly, even to that point, I didn't really know. I was using Indeed as a barometer to figure out what's fair for a dentist, right? So hopefully through this episode, everybody can walk away with a little bit more knowledge on how much the average dentist makes and what makes sense for your particular situation. Everything we're going to say is prefaced to your geographical location as well as your clinical experience, right? At the same way, somebody in New York or someone in Los Angeles might have a very higher cost of living compared to somebody in Nebraska.
Exactly.
So therefore, right, just because the number is larger does not mean the dollar goes further.
Exactly.
That makes sense, right?
Makes sense.
In the same way that somebody who's been out of school for 10 years, right, or somebody who is fresh out of school or maybe just finished their AEG or GPR, they should not necessarily demand the same in a contract negotiation just because the knowledge in which they bring to the table are completely different.
Yeah. So, man, let's kick it off. Talking about just the different varieties of practicing within dental. Just as a salaried employee, I'm making about $126,000 just on average. Like Dr. Ifedi alluded to, right? A big piece of this, right, is take home, right? Not everything that you get promised as a W-2 employee is what you end up seeing at the end of the day. So, for instance, 26,000 of that may just go to covering taxes. You may only get 100,000 of that to go live. And there's obviously very different variety of pieces of things going on. Like you said, cost of living, inflation, and different things like that, that this is what this season is about, is talking about those different aspects so that we can compare apples to apples and not apples to oranges, right? Putting everybody on that even playing field so that we can begin to compare and contrast.
For sure.
Yeah.
So the statistics that Kingsley is alluding to right now are a study that the ADA put out that is also on the Federal Labor Bureau statistics, right? Which basically surveyed about 140,000 dentists nationwide. And it surveyed what is your income, right? Like where do you lie on the spectrum of income? And this helps everybody get a better understanding of what does it look like nationally. So the average associate nationwide is making about $126,000 a year. Depending on where you're at, that's high, that's low. Just in North Carolina, that's on the lower side for most average dentists. But again, it's all geographically based, right? So again, in Charlotte, it might not go as far as New York City, right? Or New York City might go less further than Charlotte. Just all depends on where you're at, right? So now we go into practice owners. The average practice owner makes $187,000 a year. Right? I'm going to put these numbers out here, and because I want to hear your opinion on what these numbers look like and what you see in your practice on a daily basis, right? And now, a non-solo owner, their average salary is $232,000 a year. So those are the 3 buckets, right? Bucket number 1, associate, $126,000. Next is the solo owner, $187,000. A non-solo owner, $232,000. For those that don't know, the difference between a solo owner and non-solo owner means that a solo owner is probably the only individual inside of the office. They are the owner of that office. They have auxiliary staff, hygienists, assistants, front desk, but they are the only doctor there. Right? Non-solo owner mean individual. You could still be the solo owner, but you either have associates in place or you're a partner or different. Basically, there's other dental doctor providers that are in that office. So those are the 3 buckets. Associate, solo owner, non-solo owner. So those are the 3 buckets. So Kingsley, I'm not sure, as far as what you see on a daily basis, what population do you deal with most?
Definitely solo owners. I would say those solo owners, typically when it comes to having a CPA, are probably the first people to go reach out to a CPA. Maybe because I've never been a dentist, but I'm assuming maybe it's the scariest piece of it, right? Because you know that I'm on my own. I might be starting this practice or taking over this practice, and this is a little bit different than what I've always been used to. Compared to maybe a dentist is going into a multi-member practice that has maybe associates or maybe they're buying into a practice. They may be working with a dentist that's been there for 20 years, so they may have some recommendations with what to do financially. So I would say typically the everyday transactions we kind of see would be with, helping solo owners get their finances, getting their accounting, getting their taxes in order. Yeah, man.
So these numbers that I'm seeing here personally, basically just off coaching, I'm seeing these numbers are pretty spot on with like a 20% variance, upward or downward, right? Like, depending on the first associateship contract, I'm seeing individuals that are coming in around that 126,000 and maybe about, again, 30,000 higher or 30,000 lower. Just it all depends on what area and how much they're going to work, right?
Yeah.
For solo practice owners, I'm seeing that 187,000 for the individuals that we get to work with.
Yeah.
Some obviously a little bit higher, some a little bit lower. And again, for solo practice owners, it all depends. Is this your first or second year of a startup? Or are you in year 10, you have an established patient base and you're looking to expand, right?
Exactly.
Versus a non-solo owner who has maybe an associate in place or maybe a partner of maybe, let's say, 5 or 6 partners, and them coming in at 232,000. Understand that. Don't just look at the income, right, and just say this person makes more or makes less, right? For somebody who's a solo owner, they're more than likely going to have debt associated with their income, right? Because they have to pay the practice note. They have to pay the lease. They have different things they have to pay. As a non-solo owner, you have other things you need to pay as well. But to understand that the biggest income discrepancy between a solo owner and a non-solo owner is that as a non-solo owner, you have other individuals you're splitting those expenses with.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that's the reason that the non-solo owner has a higher take-home ability.
Exactly.
Right? As far as this statistic goes, right? This is not everybody, right? Because as far as the financial firms that I listen to, even this on different podcasts or talk to directly, their clients, people who tend to work with financial experts, are not coming in at these numbers.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I just want to introduce just one financial concept because I think what you're referring to may be economies of scale, meaning, if you have 3 dentists that all work together in one group, you might still only need one front desk. You might still only need one person on the phone. You may not need, versus if it's three individuals that have 3 different practices, you definitely need 3 different front desk people. So you now begin to gain in economies of scale, meaning that the cost does not go up, even though the income begins to go up, right? You get to cut down on expenses because you're, like you said, sharing these expenses. It's not as much things that you need to account for individually. And now the income can now justify the expenses a little bit more. So economies of scale is sounding a little bit what you're referring to now, man.
So we're simply talking about fixed and variable costs, correct?
Exactly.
And I don't want to go too deep. So let's give like a real life example, right?
Yeah.
So everybody here, when you were in dental school, you probably either lived alone or you had roommates.
Exactly.
So let's say if you had a 4-bedroom home and the rent is $2,000, right? Either you could pay the $2,000 alone, or you can have 4 roommates and everybody pay $500.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, everybody still gets a safe place to live. The question is, how much are you paying for that safe place to live? So the same thing happens in the dental world. Like whether if you're a solo owner, if you're a non-solo owner, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But also when it comes to here, as we were saying, individuals who work with financial experts tend to have higher income.
Yeah.
So one firm that we're in very close contact with, they told us that their average dentist who is non-solo or solo is bringing in $300,000.
Yeah.
That is far exceeding 187 we're seeing here. And what that told me earlier on, because I was told those statistics earlier on, even before I graduated, that tells me that, the individuals who tend to engage experts are the ones who tend to have a quicker velocity towards their financial goals, if that makes sense, right?
Makes sense.
So basically that tells me that people who tend to engage experts are the ones who have a quicker velocity towards their goal.
Yep.
Those are the ones who have somebody to help point out the pitfalls, right, as they go. And I always play around with you and tell you that, getting my MBA told me, it helped me realize 70% of things, right? But that also helped me identify the 30% of things I don't know. So I want to ask you, based off the clients that you work with and the people that you run into at like different state association meetings, have you seen a difference between those who have like expert financial help or those who are just getting into the game?
Yeah. So, what I would say the biggest thing, those who go and get, CPA, a financial advisor, things like that, they typically begin to run around circles that really benefit them. For instance, what ends up happening is typically dental CPAs know other practice owners. So we're able to get information from those practice owners and say, hey, like this is what we're seeing across the street. This is what we're seeing down the road. These are some different concepts that you may need to be aware of. Just like the saying goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Same thing with getting that financial help, having that financial voice in your ear. At the end of the day, you might be able to piece it together, get information as it comes, Google this, Google that, maybe, check with or cross-reference with a practice down the street. But when you're working with that financial professional, they're typically working with maybe tens or even hundreds of people in your same position. So why not just go ahead and pick their brain, get their ear and say, hey, this is what my practice is dealing with. Collections right now are just not making sense compared to what we're producing. What have you seen? And even though that CPA, that financial advisor, may not be in the practice with you, they may say, hey, I talked to Dr. Joe Brown the other day in the same exact situation. This may be something to keep your mind on. This may be an avenue to think of. So long story short, really helps you, like you said, avoid those pitfalls. And it helps you get out of, the situations or the downfalls much more quicker.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So the reason we're going into this so deeply is because, again, like just giving people statistics on income without giving background, it'll be fruitless. So understand that all these numbers happen for a reason, right? Like there's associates make what they make for a reason. Solo practice owners makes what they make for a reason. Non-solo make what they make for a reason. And all the numbers we gave you were general. So I'm just going to quickly rattle off the specialty numbers for the same exact classifications, and then we'll just continue to move forward and wrap up the conversation. So for associate specialists, right? Yep. This takes all the different specialties into consideration. The average associate makes about $190,000 a year. 190. Now, the average solo owner makes approximately $300,000 a year. Okay. Now, the average non-solo owner makes about $349,000. Let's call it $350,000 a year. So as we talked about different classifications, obviously being a specialist, it has a higher income potential because you have a more specified knowledge set, right?
Yep.
So, but at the same time, again, depending on where you fall in this, right? I don't want you making a decision thinking like, okay, because that person makes more, I want to go do that, right?
Yeah.
It's all about what fits you and what you want the most, right?
Yeah.
If you want to specialize, specialize. If you want to start a practice, start a practice. If you want to be an associate, be an associate. But again, the one thing that I just felt like I didn't have earlier on when I was going through this journey was the knowledge and the information.
Yep.
And I'm hoping everybody here now leaves from this conversation at least having the general knowledge basis of information so they can help make their decision better in the future.
Yeah, man, I think you put it all in a good way. And one thing I'll say about this season, and this is what I feel like in my heart what this season is about, taking a concept like income, to me on that financial pyramid is honestly just a foundational piece. Reason being, there's so many other factors that affect your quality of life. When it comes to finances, when it comes to doing, these things to get your generational dental wealth life. And one thing I'll say is we'll introduce the other concepts, like we said, of how does taxes affect that income level that you're bringing in? How does investing affect that income that you're keeping or that you're bringing in? So I just say that to say, don't be one of the individuals or professionals that think that the income is what produces the outcome. Right. Income is just one variable that we're going to discuss in this season. But I think you've summed it up nice and well, gave us a good foundational launching pad to kind of tackle this conversation.
Man, it's going to be a fun season. We have some amazing guests that are going to be on, man. A lot of surprises that are going to be coming up. We're excited. It's going to be a great time. We got some individual interviews, man. It's going to be a ball. So again, if anybody has any questions that they would like us to answer on air, or if you just have any questions on a personal side, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to myself at Dr. MBA LLC. That's my @name.
Yep. And mine is Kingsley Ifedi, at Kingsley Ifedi on Instagram, LinkedIn, etc.
You can always find us. We're excited. This is going to be a great season. So thank you, everybody, for joining us on this episode today. If you need to reach us, or you need to send any questions, any thoughts, anything like that, we air questions online all the time on the episodes. You can reach me at Dr. MBA LLC on Instagram or Facebook.
Yep, and mine is at Kingsley Ifedi. That's last name Ifedi, and you can catch me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. And one more other thing we want to throw out there, we really want to stress to you all, man, community is what helps you go far. So we want to invite you, go ahead and join the community here of people who think, walk, talk generational dental wealth. And you can go ahead and visit us on the website at it's teamfinancials.com/community. All right, that's teamfinancials.com/community. And we want to invite like-minded people just like you to come and hang out with us.
It's going to be an amazing season. Thank
you
everybody
awesome.
for y'all's time.
Peace. Peace.